Hey guys, here with a short tutorial on the Gigabyte GA-990FXA-UD5 motherboard. Now I've had this motherboard for 2 to 3 years or so, and I've never updated the BIOS. But the other day I was looking at my processor here, and as you can tell, my processor here is maxing out at 4 gigahertz. Which it shouldn't be, because this processor that I have, the AMD FX-9590, is clocked at 4.7 gigahertz with 5 gigahertz at max, and that is if you have a water cooling system. And I definitely have a water cooling system, as you can see here by my core temperatures. Right now it's running at 15 degrees and it's running average. It's not doing anything crazy right now, but as you can tell, my temperatures there are extremely low. Even when it was maxed out, it was at 20 degrees Celsius, which is nothing. And here on CPU-Z, you can see that this is also reporting the clock speed at 4 gigahertz maxed out. So I decided to look into it a little bit, and I ended up going back to the motherboard. So this motherboard here apparently did not support this processor from the beginning, so there was a BIOS update released later on, which I will show you how to install now using QFlash. So QFlash is an application that runs on the BIOS of Gigabyte motherboards. So basically, you boot into the BIOS, then you boot into QFlash, and then that will help you flash your BIOS with the latest firmware. So in order to do this and unlock the full usability of these AMD FX-9590 processors, is first off, use a water cooling system, and second off, update your BIOS if you're using a motherboard such as this one. Now on your motherboard, right up here, or actually down here at the bottom left corner, you should see the version number. And when you go over to Gigabyte's website, make sure to select the version that you currently show on your motherboard. I know that mine is the revision 3.0, so I'll go ahead and click there, and then go to support and downloads, driver, choose BIOS, and here the latest BIOS is from 2015. This is the one that I'm currently running, the 2013, and this one does not allow you to use all the processing speed on that CPU. So we'll go ahead and download this. I've already got it downloaded here, so I'll go ahead and extract this. And then once you have this extracted, you need a USB flash drive. So plug that in, and then you will need to format that flash drive as FAT32. It can be FAT32 or FAT, it doesn't matter. I prefer FAT32. We'll go ahead and format it there. Now that that's done, we'll close this out and simply drag all these files over into that flash drive. So there we go, we've got the files on the flash drive, and now we'll go ahead and eject this flash drive and turn the computer off, and then we need to boot into the BIOS. So to boot into the BIOS, shut the computer down, and when you're first starting it, tap the delete button, and that will throw you into the BIOS. Or I believe there's another key which you can press that throws you right into QFlash, but we'll check that out right now. Alright, now at this point go ahead and plug in your flash drive, or just leave it plugged in the way it was, and turn on your computer. When the computer boots up, press the end key on your keyboard, which is right here, and this will throw you right into QFlash. There we go. So we're loaded into the Gigabyte UEFI. And here you will want to go to update BIOS. As you can tell there, version from 2013. So we're going to update it to the 2015 version. We'll go ahead and update the BIOS. You don't need to save the BIOS because Gigabyte has dual BIOS. So if something goes wrong, then you can recover from the recovery image. So update the BIOS. Here you will see your mass storage device and select the .fc file. It will read the file. It'll ask you if you're sure, and make absolutely sure that this is the correct motherboard. So 990FXA-UD5. Make sure that's on your manual and on your motherboard. If you install this BIOS on any other motherboard, you're definitely going to brick that motherboard and completely break your computer. So are you sure? Yes. Here it will update the BIOS. Alright, so there we go, it's done. Now it'll verify it. Now we can go ahead and reboot. Once the computer reboots, you will want to load into the BIOS. So in order to go into the BIOS, you're going to press the delete key. So just tap that a bunch of times. And there we go. We're in the BIOS, and now we can see that our processor down here is showing as 4700 megahertz or 4.7 gigahertz. So we've unlocked the full potential of our processor here. And we can just go ahead and load optimized defaults. This is just to make sure everything works properly. And then save and exit. And our computer should turn on like normal this time. Alright, there we go. Boot it up. Now let's go ahead and test it out. Alright, so after a couple of hours of messing with this, I figured out that the AMD FX-9590 is not the most stable processor out there. So sometimes when you go and use it at the advertised speed, which is 4.7 gigahertz, it doesn't work as it should. So you have to go in here and manually adjust it. Here you can see that I've overclocked it to 4.8 gigahertz. It's supposed to be able to turbo boost up to 5 gigahertz per core, as you can see here, but it doesn't work. It'll randomly freeze your computer and you'll have a bunch of issues. So it's better to just go in here and disable the core performance boost, which pushes it up to 5 gigahertz. And then also change this down to just 4.7 and leave it as is. We'll go ahead and set the CPU to be locked. That way it doesn't push or try to push higher. And I'll test it out this way and we'll see if it stops freezing. Alright, so here I am rendering the video I created, and I'm using the stock speeds here, but it looks like it is overclocking to 4.8. Here it's showing 4.7, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Open Hardware Monitor. But CPU-Z over here is showing 4.7, and so far so good. I've set up Sony Vegas here to render only using the processor instead of the GPU. It looks like all the cores are pretty much synced up, and so far it hasn't locked up. We'll see how it does. Now previously when I was doing this, it would start rendering for about this long and then it would just completely freeze the whole system. So if you experience anything like that on your computer with a 9590, then you most likely need to disable the turbo boost on your motherboard, and you may need to underclock the CPU, which is pretty ridiculous considering AMD advertises this processor as a 4.7 gigahertz processor with a potential of 5 gigahertz if needed, but it doesn't seem to work very well at all. Other people on forums have suggested using an AMD FX-8370, which I guess you can overclock to up to 4.8 gigahertz without any problems. That processor is clocked at 4 gigahertz standard, but you can overclock it without problems, and it doesn't generate nearly as much heat or use as much power as the FX-9590 here. So maybe I'll have to check that one out if this one keeps giving me problems. Hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, then I'll make a new video here on the other processor and see how that one performs. Alright, so that seems to have fixed the freezing problem. So yeah, if you get this problem, go into your motherboard settings, disable turbo boost, and that way your processor won't be jumping up and down and causing your system to freeze. So I'm going to go ahead and add this section or this video to the original video, and then we'll go ahead and test it out using Battlefield again and see how things work. Here you can see the processor is being pushed to 4.7 gigahertz now on CPU-Z right here, and over here on Open Hardware Monitor you can see it as 4.7 maxed out. The temperatures are a little bit higher, but not by much, and you can see here that I'm running Battlefield. You can see here that I'm running Battlefield on the highest settings. So if I go to advanced, this is all set to ultra. So I'll go ahead and post this video, and hopefully this helps some of you guys get your motherboard updated so you can unlock the full potential of your processor. But that is it for this tutorial. If you guys found it helpful or informative, please remember to like, comment, favorite, or share the video. Also consider subscribing, and consider checking out some of the sponsors down in the video's description. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you next time.